Sounds good.
As you're recording.
You getting a privacy notice there too?
Yeah,
Sounds good. Well, we're recording.
awesome.
Well, Lee, it's so good to have you again to come to our listeners. You know, we are way down south in Louisiana in the United States, and it's been so great to spin your wax, man.
No,
I really
it's
appreciate you taking time to do this.
I've got to say it's to me it's absolutely thrilling. Like to as someone who has always grown up with like so much American culture, and and like you have a really good ear for soul and kind of and stuff like that. So it's really it's super rewarding for someone who grew up through a essentially a kind of punk and rock and indie kind of band thing, who has
Yes.
always been a massive fan of all this different other music as well, who and now who tries to kind of let it influence what I do a lot more, especially in my solo stuff and everything. um like it's really cool. Like it was really rewarding. I remember when I put out Vacation and you sent me a message about like two of the kind of slow jams, for want of a better description, and you were like, oh, they're like, I can't remember the exact words, but it gave me a feeling of authenticity, let's put it that way. So yeah, so it's really cool. Like I can't, it's really hard when making music because I've got like a lot of mainstream tastes, but they're very, very broad across the mainstream. And then I've got all these kind of more obscure tastes. And it's all part of the big mix that goes into my music and everything. So I never really know whether I'm hitting the nail on the head for anyone who'd actually like the things that I'm influenced by, if that makes sense. So one of my goals with Vocation, because I was working with kind of producers as opposed to me making all the music, the
Right.
intention was to, I don't know, fall into the styles a little bit more and kind of actually do something that was specific for that genre or whatever. So like something like Playing the Game Again became like, oh, I want to do a almost like an Alexander O'Neill, like, or Luther or something like that kind of thing with it, if you know what I
Hey,
mean. So,
Lee, that's one of my favorites. Playing the
oh,
game, and relationship goals too. The first one you sent us, those
yeah, I mean,
two I really like.
I have to thank Chris Half Decent, really. I mean, his because he produced
Yes.
both those tracks, and relationship goals he wanted to keep for himself. He's like, basically, I earmarked that like, wow, how many years ago? It's coming up to like 10 years ago. He had a demo which had like three like instrumentals that he said he was kind of like, I think he originally intended to give them to me, but then he decided he really liked Playing the Game Again, and then he wanted to kind of keep it for himself. And I was continuously like, no, I've got the stuff for it. He's like, well, I've got to do a verse on it then. And I was like, fine, I'll try and leave a gap. And then there wasn't a gap. And so then I was like, well, you should do your version and maybe just take my hook or whatever. And then he was just like, you know what? You've kind of done it. Like I might find the need to revisit it at some point, but it seems like it's really good. And if it has to wait for him to do it, it might never happen. And it was really good. So yeah, I was really pleased that he let me have it. Really.
I never paid attention to that he was the producer on both of
Yeah, I
those.
mean, he's just so talented. I For my money, he's one of the most interesting and talented producers in like our country right now. I think there's not really, and being honest, you can extend it a bit further out anyway, because the world is so connected. Like, we're busy having this chat now.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? So
absolutely.
in that sense, I think you could increase that out a bit and say that he's one of the more promising producers in the world, if you're looking at underground kind of music of anywhere in the R&B, hip hop, dance, like kind of field, which is kind of the lifeblood of what the mainstream pop music has been for like the last 15 years or so. Like
Hmm.
I think if not more, but certainly like with the kind of death of the band in kind of like the early 2000s in a strange way, like in certainly in the mainstream, I've like, or the new band, I should say, then I feel like that's been the dominant kind of types of music. So my mind boggles that more people aren't on top of him, and like kind of, I'm really surprised that he hasn't got like major labels kind of like just throwing him money to remix and produce tracks, because he's just got such it's like a touch which, it's like new and fresh and definitely modern, but it pleases an old school music fan, because
Yes.
there's an integrity to like the way he creates his music. Like you can tell he's kind of a bit of an old soul, maybe, in a way. I feel
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
reason I connected, I'm a bit older than him, and I connected with him very, very quickly. I mean, we have shared musical favorites and stuff. Like I got him for one birthday. I realized, so this is a bit of a convoluted story, but my brother went to Australia, and in the process, he left all his CDs with me, and he had a lot of hip hop, and he had like all the Ice Cube albums, and I had all the Ice Cube
Oh,
albums already. So then I realized that after I'd kind of seen what was, what we had, and like in everything, so we had the full collection, there was a big stack like that left over. So one birthday, I just gave him like the back catalogue of Ice Cube, and like, yeah. So, and we've always bonded over Prince as well, because we're both huge Prince fans.
yeah.
And
I
so,
can tell that Prince is really one of your influences. Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, being honest, I think it goes further than that, really. I think he's, well, yeah, actually, maybe it goes further than musical influences. I wouldn't say that I've necessarily followed his religious path, although I've always been very aware of
Right.
it. And it's always been an interesting thing that I had a complex relationship with, growing up Catholic, and maybe that not being a great fit for me the way that it happened for me or whatever. And so then, um, but throughout that time, I've always had no shame in singing Prince's like God songs, like top of my voice, like Anastasia, where the chorus is God is love, love is God, girls and boys love God above, or his version of One of Us. I didn't actually like that song when Joan Osborne did it. But
Hmm.
then when he covered it, I was like, whoa, this song's great. And suddenly I'm singing it top of my voice. There's tons of his stuff, which is totally, The Cross. Um, there's loads of his stuff. Holy River. Yeah, there's just Last December. Oh, in the name of the Father. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Right.
proper.
Right.
But I've never had any qualms with any of that. Yet, if I've been in a church for any reason and there's been a certain hymn with a certain line, and I felt like, oh, that's weird. Do I connect to that? I think because I'm a singer, I kind of analyze what I'm gonna sing more than your average person might if they're just, oh, we're doing a hymn. Do you know what I
That's
mean? And they just
interesting.
sing it.
That's interesting.
But I'm actually like, oh, do I like, because I have to connect to it to even let it come out my voice sounding good, if that makes sense. And so if you're kind of going, oh, well, can I convey this with any, interestingly, I did some George Harrison tributes a few years back in Liverpool, which is kind of like selling ice to Eskimos, really. It's like going up to Liverpool to play Liverpudlians music to Liverpudlians. It's like, and yeah, and my one of my other brother said that when we did My Sweet Lord, that my voice had a whole different quality to it that he hadn't heard about it. That I was singing in maybe a different register and with a different kind of set of notes, maybe that I usually pick or whatever. And yeah, he said that it's like kind of the best he'd ever heard me, which was he'd seen me a lot of times. So so yeah, so
Well, as an internet radio producer, I hope we can continue to benefit from your new releases
oh my
and
goodness,
new
like
projects, man.
if you
I've actually enjoyed your music. So kind of tell us what you've been doing with internet radio lately.
what, just being honest,
Have
I've
you
been,
besides Bushrod Radio, have you been sending any music out to
oh
other
yeah,
internet radio stations?
well, Quick Fix, like, obviously handle all of my kind of records and everything. So Terry, who's the lady who runs things there, is like really industrious, and she's very hardworking, especially as she's certainly not in it for the money. I can assure you that, because if she is, she'd be very
Right.
disappointed.
Tell me about it. Tell me about
you
it.
know, so yeah, and she's great. She's got like a huge list of people who are, you know, depending on the song. I'm an awkward person to market for because she never knows really what I'm. Not that I drastically change usually, but the records can sound quite different from each other. I feel like
Sure.
the aesthetic, not the aesthetics, the ethics and the you know the kind of ideas behind them have a cohesive thing that runs through them, but sonically they're in different domains each record, and I want that to be the way. Like Bowie records or Prince records, or you know
Hmm.
those they're kind of each their own record, and I kind of like defined by, and you have like images that you associate with each one, and you know all that kind of thing. So I'm kind of into that, though maybe on a slightly less grand scale than both of those artists at some point. I certainly haven't posed naked with a big flower in front of me at any point
Well,
yet.
speaking of posts, go ahead and let our listening audience know how to follow you on the
Oh yeah,
various social
uh,
media platforms.
yeah. It'd be at Lee Chrhistian 69, which is on Twitter. Uh, Lee Christogram. I am currently on Instagram. That's a
Instagram.
suggestion of a friend because I said about
I
how
like it.
Prince called his Princegram, and I was telling a friend, and he said you should call yours Lee Christogram. I was like, fine, I'll change it right now, and I haven't changed it back yet. So you know, so it must be all right. So I'm sticking with it. And Facebook, I think it's Lee Chrhistian Music. Lee Chrhistian Music, Quick Fix Recordings, quickfixrecordings.com/ Lee Quick Lee Chrhistian, I think.
Okay.
Bandcamp,
Okay.
leechristian.bandcamp.com. That's where the music is. That's the most important bit, really.
Bandcamp is where
Yeah, I
you
mean,
can
and
get your music.
my Bandcamp has so much more music than I've got on for streaming as well. Like
Okay.
there's there's just so much so much more stuff on there, and I think if anybody does actually like want to get any deeper into it, like then that's definitely the place to do it. Like you might be quite like, oh, there's whole records I don't like by this guy, but I think it still gives a better picture of what I've been doing
Well,
with my life.
we want to send everybody to where you can get some downloads, some sales. So
Yeah, I
yes,
mean, well,
like you said.
bandcamp.com is probably the best one for that. Like streaming's certainly not going to do it, is it? So
Okay.
they'd
Good.
have to just loop it on the stream like forever. Like I have to get streamed 250 times on any song to make 1 penny. So
Absolutely.
if you think about that on a grander scale, you know, like that's yeah,
You got to
it's
start carrying them in your trunk like they did in the old days. Press you some
yeah. I
hard
mean,
CD copies and keep them with you at all
it's
times.
a real hard thing actually. Like I miss playing live a lot, and I'm always trying to work out how I could get away with, you know, the expenses of putting a band together, rehearsing them, taking them out like round venues, potentially staying overnight, and all these kind of things. And it's a real uphill struggle, like all of that. But I mean, so the live thing, I just haven't been doing anywhere near as much as I'd like. I did the Prohibition. I had the Prohibition Smokers Club festival dates that we did in. This is 2017 now, so it's really high time I got out there, like, because I've kind of made my name as a well, my name, my dubious name. I made my dubious name as a kind of live frontman performer and everything,
Right.
like with
Right.
Smilex. So it's really weird to not play live, and it's something I really miss, kind of deep in me, kind of thing. So, but yeah, lately I've just been kind of working with what I can really, which is recording a lot. I've been on a bit of a
Yeah, the 2020 music. Let's kind of
yeah. So I've been
get to
for the last year and a half, I'd say, I've been demoing and writing. And obviously, I write in so many different styles that I wrote about 100 songs. And so I had to at some point go, well, what am I going to do with these? I've got 100 songs. It's too many, more than anyone ever needs. And so I divided them up into batches of kind of like, well, this is for a rock band to play. This is for a, you know, more industrial kind of project. This is for a more funky thing. This is for a more jazzy thing, etc., etc. And I started managing to, without making any of the music, any of the records too homogenous, like have them so they had kind of some kind of unit. It was a good way of just sorting out so many songs. It just
I
seemed like
see.
such a daunting prospect, because I've been
And
trying
the
to do.
latest, the name of the latest album?
The latest song is 2020. The
Okay.
album will be out in about a month, I want to say. Uh, I'm really close. I've got the last. It's down to 12 tracks. It's a dozen tracks. They're all most of them a bit too long, probably. So they're a bit hard to finish, because like you're kind of like, I don't know, that like you think you've done it, but actually you only worked on like the first half of the song. You still got
Hmm.
like the whole second half to actually sort out and stuff like that. So yeah, so I'm really quite far with like these 12 tracks, and they're almost done. I think it'll be about a month. I would say like 6 weeks, something like that. I intend for it, my last deadline date, all else fails, is May 1st on Bandcamp. I want it. Like, if it's not out May Day by Bandcamp, I'll be irritated with myself. But I want it before then, really. I'd like it to be before then. And you know
I'm
me,
going to be on the lookout for it,
as soon
definitely.
as I finish something, I'm like, put it out straight away. I've got to get like some kind of feeling like it's out there in the world, you know. So yeah, so it'll be on Bandcamp as soon as, like, literally the day after I've mastered it, it'll be on there. And I think, don't know what it's called at the moment, but I've got a working title which is kind of nonsensical, because I wanted to.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't want to have an album with concepts for once. I wanted to do something like a bit more like one of those late Prince albums, which dances about from a few different styles, but has a unified kind of feel in the production and stuff. But like a 3121,
I
you
see.
know.
I
So
see.
it's got like, at the moment it's just called Zozo, but it's a Z0, and it's like a few different things that are all mixed in together. Things to do with the date, obviously 2020. There's things to do with the earning system of a musician, which is zero.
Hmm.
There's things to do with there's a internet and also Ouija board legend of a demonic spirit called Zozo. Zozo is also a vernacular for a what's the name for it? Ejaculate. So there's,
Interesting.
so there's all these things that I thought, oh wow, well, and I had the name before I really worked out any of these different. Then I started searching it, like, what is this that's in my head? Why do I want to call this record? Why do I want to call my record Zozo? And so, what does it even mean? And like, so then I started looking it up, and it had all these different things. So I was like, yeah, okay,
In
that
case you
seems
got
like,
a question about it from an interviewer.
well, it's more like, before I go naming my album, I should probably know what I'm even naming it. Do you know what I mean? So, and then I kind of thought, well, a lot of the themes on this record actually, like, it's weird because they're quite separate. So there wouldn't be a concept to the album. But because of this word having so many different meanings, it actually pulls together a lot of the material. There's definitely there's like some of my lustiest material that I've ever done on this, definitely. But there's also some of my hardest kind of statements about world stuff that's going on and everything. There's like some
There is
really
a lot going on.
there's some
Yeah.
quite depressive angles, but there's also super upbeat angles. There's really dumb stuff in there, and then there's stuff where the words are just what would sound best to the song, not even like I've got like a message or whatever. They're like thrown together, like how Bowie would cut up lyrics, or like, and kind of random and more like kind of things that people have said that I've then turned into a song. Like someone said in passing, and I was like, that's a lyric. And then I was like, I'll make a whole song out of that and stuff like that. So it's such random stuff that's come together. And musically, it's got some guitars, and they're more prominent than they might have been on the last like record or two. And but the beats are probably at the forefront. I think my programming on this is, and kind of tapping out stuff and everything, has the best that it's been for like maybe a decade or like, you know, since I started doing solo music. I think when I started writing, I think I kind of maybe veered away from the beats a little bit and kind of started, because it's so hard to learn instruments. So
Well,
I'm
man,
so busy.
keep doing what you're doing because we really love it here. I know I do. As we come to a close with
Sorry
what
if I
we're
used up
talking
all my time.
about
I could talk
a
for
little bit.
hours.
Yeah, no problem. I really enjoyed, getting to know you a little bit more. We communicate by email all of the time, and we chat a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah,
about
yeah.
your music. So it's just good, kind of putting a face
Yeah,
with
yeah. We need
everything.
to at some point do a collaboration as well. I'm really up for doing something on
Yeah, we
something.
talked about it one
Yeah.
time
I
before,
wanted to I
so I
wanted
know
to
you're
get it
busy.
yeah, I wanted to get it in time for the Vocation record because I would have liked to have put something on there, but just didn't get anything. Sometimes it's about like, oh, I've got this window before I've got to get the record kind of out.
Yes.
Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to do the gigs and et cetera, and all this kind of stuff. So I just pushed for time. There was a track that
Oh,
I did
yeah.
with one person, and it ended up not fitting really on the record as such, so it ended up being a bonus track. But I'm kind of regretful about that because I really liked that track. It just didn't sit anywhere in the sequence and stuff. So
Right.
a lot of the time, you've got to just do what the record says to do. I found over time, like the music. Not it sounds cliche to say the music will speak to you or whatever, but like the music tells you what to do. Whether it's the
It
order of the
does. It
tracks
does.
or it's what songs should go on a record. Once you're listening to it, you'll work out whether it's supposed to be there or not, and what works, and you'll only go back to it after. If you don't do it the way that it has to be, you'll only always go back to it and go, I wish I'd just put that on there or did this in this order or whatever. So it just has to be the record it's going to be, and that leaves a lot of like really cool tracks off to the side, which is why I think it's really funny when people say about like Prince, oh, well, isn't this stuff that's being released now, isn't this the rubbish stuff that you didn't want to release? It's like, nah, it's just some of it's the best stuff he's ever done. It's just it didn't fit on a certain project because he's so
Right.
meticulous about what should be on a record, so like the Purple Rain reissue had Wonderful Arse on there. That's an amazing Prince track. Like if that had been released back in the Revolution days, that would have been a smash. An
Smash
app,
hit.
yeah. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, so it's weird with songs, isn't it? I'm sure you know yourself. Some of your favorite
Oh,
tracks you still haven't finished.
and you go back and you think about artists like him. Can you imagine how much stuff there's out there by him that just hasn't been released?
Let's put it this way: I have one DVD which has unreleased stuff, nothing that's been put out, unreleased stuff, and it goes on until around about musicology, I think, around about up until
Oh,
there. Okay,
right.
and it's his whole career up until there. If you press play on that and leave it running, if you come back to it in 4 days, it's still going.
My God.
4 days. I used to put it
Oh,
on,
I
just
can't
leave it.
imagine having that
I
much
just
stuff.
leave it on. I just leave it on, and then I just be, oh, what am I listening to now? Oh, it's just constant vault stuff. And so much of it is of really like superbly high quality. Like like
Well, Lee,
ridiculous.
I've really enjoyed chatting with you, man. If as we
Yes, let's
close
do it
out,
again.
if there's one thing you'd like our audience to remember about you or your music, feel free to share that with us. Lee Chrhistian is uh, is on the move for 2020. Is there something you want
Trying
to
my
leave with
best.
us?
I would say when you be nice to each other, and also when you do check out my music, if you don't like one track, try a different one because I don't try to repeat myself. So, I'm not like one of those artists where like if you don't like what one thing is, then you're not going to like all of it. If you don't like an album, try a different album. There might be, I'm trying to do a lot of different music here. I hope I hit something that, tickles you. Do you know what I mean?
Well said. Well said. I'm going to close the recording out here while I got you,
Yes,
just to
thank you
make
so
sure
much.
that
It was
I
good to
don't
talk.
lose this. You're quite welcome. Thank you.